third graders. Welcome to more Winn Dixie, chapters 18 and 19. When we got to Gloria Dumps, I told her I had two surprises for her, and I asked which one she wanted first, the small one or the big one. The small one, said Gloria. I handed her a litmus lozenge, and she moved it around her hands, feeling it. Candy, she said. Yes, ma'am, I told her. It's called litmus lozenge. Oh, Lord, yes. I remember these candies. My daddy used to eat 'em. She unwrapped the litmus lozenge and put it in her mouth, and she nodded her head. Do you like it? I asked. Mm-hmm. She nodded her head slowly. It tastes sweet, but it also tastes like people leaving. You mean sad, I said. Does it taste like sorrow to you? That's right, she said. It tastes sorrowful, but sweet. Now, what's surprise number two? A book, I said. A book? Mm-hmm, I said. I'm going to read it out loud to you. It's called Gone with the Wind. Miss Franny said it's a great book. It's about the Civil War. Do you know about the Civil War? I've heard it mentioned a time or two, said Gloria, nodding her head and sucking on the litmus lozenge. It's going to take us a long time to read this book, I told her. There are 1,037 pages. Woo-wee, said Gloria. She leaned back in her chair and crossed her hands on her stomach. Well, we best get started then. And so I read the first chapter, Gone with the Wind, out loud to Gloria Dump. I read it long enough to keep the ghosts away, and Gloria listened to it good. When I was done, she said it was the best surprise she'd ever had, and she couldn't wait to hear chapter 2. That night I gave the preacher his litmus lozenge right before he kissed me goodnight. What's this? He said. It's some candy that Miss Franny's great-great-grandfather invented. It's called the litmus lozenge. The preacher unwrapped it and put it in his mouth, and after a minute he started rubbing his nose and nodding his head. Do you like it? I asked him. It has a peculiar flavor. Root beer, I said. Something else. Strawberry? That too, but there's still something else. It's odd. I could see the preacher getting further and further away. He was hunching up his shoulders and lowering his chin and getting ready to pull his head inside his shell. It almost tastes like melancholy, he said. Melancholy? What's that? Sad, said the preacher. He rubbed his nose some more. It makes me think of your mother. Winn Dixie sniffed at the candy wrapper in the preacher's hand. It tastes sad, he said, and sighed. It must be a bad batch. No, I told him. I sat up in bed. That's the way it's supposed to taste. Litmus came back from the war, and his whole family was dead. His daddy died fighting, his mama and his sisters died from a disease, and the Yankees burnt his house down. And Litmus was sad, very sad, and what he wanted more than anything in the whole world was something sweet. So he built a candy factory, and he called it Litmus Lozenges, and he put all the sad he was feeling into the candy. My goodness, said the preacher. Winn Dixie snuffed the candy wrapper out of the preacher's hand and started chewing on it. Give me that, I said to Winn Dixie, but he wouldn't give it up, and had to reach inside his mouth and pull it out. You can't eat candy wrappers, I told him. The preacher cleared his throat, and I thought maybe he was going to say something important, maybe tell me a thing that he remembered about my mama. But what he said was, Opal, I had a talk with Mrs. Dewberry the other day. She said that Stevie says that you called him a bald-headed baby. It's true, I said. I did. But he calls Gloria Dump a witch all the time, and he calls Otis retarded. And once he even said that his mama said I shouldn't spend all my time with old ladies. That's what he said. I think you should apologize, said the preacher. Me? I said. Yes, he said, you. You still tell Stevie you're sorry, and if you say anything that hurt his feelings, I'm sure he just wants to be your friend. I don't think so, I told him. I don't think he wants to be my friend. Some people have a strange way of going about making friends. You apologize. Yes, sir, I said. Then I remembered Carson. Daddy, I said, do you know anything about Amanda Wilkinson? What kind of thing? Do you know something about her and something about a boy named Carson? Carson was her brother. He drowned last year. He's dead? Yes, said the preacher. His family's still suffering a great deal. How old was he? 5, said the preacher. He was only 5 years old. Daddy, I said, how could you not tell me something about like that? Other people's tragedies should not be subject of idle conversation. There was no reason for me to tell you. It's just that I need to know, I said, because it helps explain to Amanda. No wonder she's so pinch-faced. What's that? Said the preacher. Nothing, I said. Good night, India Opal, the preacher said. He leaned over and he kissed me, and I smelled the root beer and strawberry and all the sadness all mixed together in his breath. He patted Winn Dixie on the head, and he got up and turned off the light and closed the door. I didn't go to sleep all right that night. I lay there and thought about how my life was like a litmus lozenge, how sweet and sad were all mixed together, and how hard it was to separate 'em out. It was confusing. "Daddy!" I shouted. After a minute, he opened the door and raised his eyebrows at me. "What was that word you said? The word that meant sad?" "Melancholy," he said. "Melancholy," I repeated. I liked the way it sounded, like there was music hidden somewhere inside of it. "Good night now," the preacher said. "Good night," I told him back. I got up out of bed and I unwrapped the litmus lozenge and sucked on it hard and thought about my mama leaving me. And that was a melancholy feeling. And then I thought about Amanda and Carson, and that made me feel melancholy too. Poor Amanda, poor Carson. He was the same age as Sweetie Pie, but he would never get to have his 6th birthday party. Chapter 19. In the morning, me and Winn Dixie went down to sweep the pet store, and I took the litmus lozenge for Otis. "Is it Halloween?" Otis asked, and I handed him the candy. "No," I said. "Why?" "Well, you're giving me candy." "It's just a gift," I told him, "for today." "Oh," said Otis. He unwrapped the litmus lozenge, put it in his mouth, and after a minute, tears started rolling down his face. "Thank you," he said. "Do you like it?" I asked him. He nodded his head. "It tastes good, but also tastes a little bit like being in jail." "Gertrude!" Gertrude squawked, and she picked up the litmus lozenge wrapper in her beak, and she dropped it down and looked around. "Gertrude!" she screamed again. "You can't have any," I told her. "It's not for birds." Then real quick, before I lost my nerve, I said, "Otis, what were you in jail for? Are you a murderer?" "No, ma'am," he said. "Are you a burglar?" "No, ma'am," said Otis, and he sucked on his candy and stared down at the pointed-toed boots. "You don't have to tell me," I said. "I was just wondering." "I ain't a dangerous man," Otis said. "If that's what you're thinking, I'm lonely, but I ain't dangerous." "Okay," I said, and I went to the back room and got my broom. When I came out, Otis was standing there where I left him, still staring down his feet. "It was on account of the music," he said. "What was?" I said. "Why, I went to jail. It was account of the music." "Well, what happened?" "I wouldn't stop playing my guitar. Used to be I played on the street, and sometimes people give me money. I didn't do it for the money. I did it because the music is better if someone's listening to it. Anyway, a policeman came, and they told me to stop it, and they said how I was breaking the law, and the whole time they were talking to me, I went right on playing my music, and that made 'em mad. They tried to put handcuffs on me," he sighed, "and I didn't like it. I wouldn't have been able to play the guitar with them things on." "And then what happened?" I said. "I hit 'em," he whispered. "You hit the police?" "Mm-hmm, one of 'em. I knocked 'em out. Then I went to jail, and they locked me up and wouldn't let me have my guitar. When they finally let me out, they made me promise I would never play my guitar on the street again." He looked up at me real quick and then back down his boots, and I don't. I only play it in here for the animals. Gertrude, the human Gertrude, she owns a shop, and she gave me this job when she read about me in the paper, and she said it's all right for me to play my music for the animals. "You play your music for me and Winn Dixie and Sweet Pie," I said. "Yeah," he agreed, "but you ain't on the street." "Thank you for telling me about it, Otis," I said. "It's all right," I said. "I don't mind." Sweetie Pie came in. I gave her a litmus lozenge, and she spit it right out. She said it tasted bad. She said it tasted like not having a dog. I swept the floor real slow that day. I wanted to keep Otis company. I didn't want him to be lonely. Sometimes it seems like everybody in the world was lonely, and I thought about my mama. Thinking about her was the same as the hole you keep feeling with your tongue after you lose a tooth. Time after time, my mind keeps going to that empty spot, the spot where I felt like she should be. Thank you for listening, third graders.